Hi everyone, this is the lesson video for Math Module 5, Lesson 36. So we're going to go ahead and get started right away on slide 2 with number 1, which is asking us to write a multiplication expression equal to 3/4 plus 3/4 plus 3/4 plus 3/4. So basically all you have to do is just count up how many individual 3/4 you have, and we have 4, and we're going to be multiplying it times 3/4 because there are 4 individual 3/4. Because remember, multiplication is just repeated addition. That's all. And again, I'm on the teacher side, so I cannot write my answer in the blanks, but make sure that you guys are writing your answers in. So then over here it says write a multiplication expression equal to 7/12 plus 7/12 plus 7/12. So we have 7/12, and it is written 3 times. So our multiplication equation is 3 times 7/12. Now for number 3, we're going to have to continue with what we were doing, but this time we're going to solve. So we have to rewrite each repeated addition problem as a multiplication problem and solve. Then we're going to take it a step further and express the results as a mixed number. So yesterday we were just writing whatever answer we got. This time we're going to take it a step further and write it as a mixed number. So the first one has been started for us. So we have a 7/5 plus 7/5 plus 7/5 plus 7/5, which is the same thing as 4 times 7/5. And they just rewrote the multiplication part out like this. That's totally fine. But basically what we're doing is we're multiplying that whole number times the numerator. So 4 times 7, which is equal to 28, and the denominator does not change. So we have 28/5. But now we have to do one more thing. We have to write our answer as a mixed number. So right now 28/5 is an improper fraction, so we're going to change it to a mixed number. We're going to do that by seeing how many times 5 can go into 28. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. I'm going to stop, skip counting there, otherwise I will go past 28. When I stopped skip counting, I stopped at 25, and now I just count up until I get to 28. So 25, 26, 27, 28. I had to count 3 times. So our answer is now 5 3/5. And now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing with part B. So part B, we have 9/10 plus 9/10 plus 9/10. So we have 3 times 9/10 because we have 9/10 written out 3 times. So remember, you guys do have to write the multiplication part because that is part of the direction. So you have to write out the multiplication equation here. And now we're going to go ahead and just multiply our whole number times our numerator. So 3 times 9, which is equal to 27. And the denominator just stays the same. So now we have 27/10, which is an improper fraction, so we have to change it to a mixed number. So I'm going to start off by seeing how many times my denominator goes into my numerator. 10, 20. And I'm going to stop right there. If I skip count any more, I'll go past 27. My denominator again stays the same. And when I skip counted, I ended at 20. So I can either count up until I get to 27, or just know that 27 minus 20 is 7. Either way, I get my answer of 2 7/10. Moving along, part C, we have 11/12 plus 11/12 plus 11/12 plus 11/12 plus 11/12. So I said 11/12 5 times, so it'll be 5 times 11/12 because 11/12 is written out 5 times. So again, I'm going to start off by multiplying my whole number times my numerator. So 5 times 11, which is equal to 55. And then I just keep my denominator the same. And now I'm going to have to change my improper fraction to a mixed number, and I'm going to do that by first figuring out how many times my denominator goes into my numerator. So I have 12, 24, 36, 48, and I'm going to stop right there. I skip counted 4 times and I landed at 48, because if I keep on going, I'll go past 55. So now I have to figure out the difference between 55 and 48 where I stopped skip counting. So I can either start at 48 and count up to 55, or do 55 minus 48. Either way, I get 7, and my final answer is 4 7/12. Let's move on to slide 3. We're going to pretty much keep on doing exactly what we were doing. So number 4 tells us to solve using any method, and then express your answers as whole or mixed numbers. So this time you don't have to rewrite the equation because it's already written out as a multiplication equation. So A, we have 8 times 2/3, so we're going to multiply that whole number times our numerator, so 8 times 2, which is equal to 16, and we keep our denominator the same. And again, the directions tell us to write our answer as a mixed number, so we're going to have to convert this. So I'm going to start off by seeing how many times 3 can go into 16. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and I'm going to stop right there. I skip counted 5 times, and I ended up at 15. I can't keep going because I'll go past 16. And I have to find the difference between 16 and where we ended up, and that is just 1. So we get our answer of 5 1/3. And now I'm going to move on to part B, where we have 12 times 3/4. So we're going to start off by multiplying the whole number times the numerator. So 12 times 3, which is equal to 36, and we keep our denominator the same. So we have 36/4. Now we have to go ahead and convert that improper fraction to a mixed number. So I'm going to see how many times 4 goes into 36. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36. So this time I landed perfectly at 36, and I skip counted 9 times. That means that since we landed perfectly at 36, there is no fraction part here, so it's just a whole number because 4 goes into 36 evenly. And now let's move on to part C. We have 50 times 4/5. So I'm going to start off by multiplying my whole number times my numerator. So 50 times 4, which is equal to 200. And again, I'm keeping my denominator the same, so 200/5. And now I have to change my improper fraction to a mixed number. So I'm going to start off by seeing how many times 5 can go into 200. I'm not going to skip count by 5s because that's going to take a really long time. So if you need to do long division to figure this out, that is totally fine. But 5 does go into 240 times, and there is nothing left over. So just like part B, we have a whole number as our answer here. Part D, we have 26 times 7/8. So again, I'm going to start off by multiplying my whole number times my numerator. So 26 times 7, which this is really tricky because I can't do 26 times 7 in my head. So I'm going to go ahead and write it off over to the side here. So I'm going to write it vertically and solve it. So 7 times 6 is equal to 42. So I'm going to write the 2 and carry the 4. And now I'm going to go ahead and do 7 times 2, which is equal to 14, but I have to add in that 4 that I carried over, so 14 plus 4 is equal to 18. So now I can say 26 times 7 is equal to 182, and I'm keeping my denominator the same at 8. And now this one, again, is tricky. I have to figure out the mixed number, and I have to do so by figuring out how many times 8 goes into 182. Well, I'm not very good at skip counting by 8s, and I feel like this would take a really long time to skip count by 8s, so I'm going to go ahead and divide 182 by 8, because that's all we're doing when we see how many times our denominator can go into our numerator. So I'm going to go ahead and write it out for long division. 8 cannot go into 1, so I'm going to write a 0. and move over to the next digit. So 8 into 18. Well, I know that 8 can go into 18 2 times. 8 is 16, so that's what I have to subtract here. I know it's been a while since we've done long division, so this is good practice. 18 minus 16 is 2, and then I have to bring down my next digit, so I have 22 now. 8 goes into 22 2 times again. I'm going to kind of move it over here so there's space because I don't want to go into the next problem. So 22, and I said 8 goes into 22 2 times, which gets us to 16. Can't do 2 minus 6, so I'm going to borrow. Now I can do 12 minus 6, which is 6. 1 minus 1 is 0, and 6 becomes my remainder because I can't put 8 in there. So what this tells me is that 8 goes into 182 22 times, so that's the whole number part of my mixed number. And 6 is the remainder, so that is my new numerator because that is the difference between where we ended up at if we were skip counting 22 times and our number. Sorry, our old numerator. Okay, let's keep on going. So numbers 5, 6, and 7, we're basically going to be doing the same thing. It's just set up as a word problem. So number 5, Morgan poured 9/10 liter of punch into each of 6 bottles. How many liters of punch did she pour in all? So we have 6 bottles times 9/10 of a liter into each bottle. And let's go ahead and figure that out. So I'm going to multiply my whole number times my numerator. So 6 times 9, which is equal to 54. And I'm going to keep my denominator the same. Now the directions do not say to write it as a mixed number, but I want us to go ahead and write it as a mixed number. So in order to write it as a mixed number, I'm going to figure out how many times does my denominator go into my numerator. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So if I skip count by tens 5 times, I get to 50. And if I count up by 4, I get to our old numerator of 54. So now I'm going to go ahead and add a text box. You guys won't have to. You guys will just be able to type this. And I'm going to say, it would help if my font was black or a color that you could actually see. And I'm going to say, she poured 5 4/10 liters of punch. And again, you guys can just write that in your answer box, but since I'm on the teacher side of things, I can't, which is why I added a text box. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to question number 6. A recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup rice. How many cups of rice are needed to make the recipe 14 times? So I have to make the recipe 14 times, and each time we make it, we need 3/4 of a cup of rice. So that means that we're going to do 13 times 3/4. So again, 14 times 3 is a little bit tricky to do in your head. You can definitely do that. If you can do that, then obviously go ahead and do it. But if you cannot do it, then go ahead and just solve it off to the side here. So 4 times 3 is equal to 12. So I'm going to write the 2, carry the 1. 3 times 1 is equal to 3, plus that 1 that we carried over is 4. So now we have 42/4. And again, the directions don't tell us to convert to a mixed number, but you're never going to have someone tell you that you need 42/4 of something. They would tell you the mixed number. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to figure out how many times 4 goes into 42. So, I don't feel like I need to skip count because I recognize, well, hey, 4 goes into 40 10 times, and I can't go past 40 because that would get me past 42. So 4 goes into 42 10 times. That gets me to 40. And now I just need to figure out my new denominator. So 40, 41, 42. I just counted up 2 more times to get to 42. And that gives me 10 2/4. And that is something that you will actually hear when baking or cooking. You might hear that you need 10 2/4 cups of rice. So that's what we're going to go ahead and write for our answer sentence as well. So 10 2/4 cups of rice are needed. And now we can move on to number 7, which I believe is the last question for our problem set. So number 7, a butcher prepared 120 sausages using 3/8 pound of meat for each. How many pounds did he use in all? So 120 sausages times 3/8 of a pound each. So again, we're going to be working with some big numbers here. If you need to do it off to the side, do your math off to the side. So the first thing I need to do is multiply my whole number times my numerator, and I'm going to go ahead and write that off to the side. 120 times 3. So I'm going to start off by doing 3 times 0, which is equal to 0. 3 times 2, which is equal to 6. And now 3 times 1, which is equal to 3. So now I get 360/8, which again, I'm going to convert to a mixed number. Now, I don't want to skip count by 8s until I get to 360, so I could either, I am going to do long division. So I'm going to do 360 divided by 8, because it will take me a really long time to skip count by 8s. And that's, really we're just doing division when we see how many times 8 can go into a number. So 8 cannot go into that first digit 3, so I'm going to write a 0, and now I'm going to look at the first 2 digits. 8 goes into 36 4 times, which brings us to 32, and that's what we're going to subtract. 36 minus 32 is equal to 4. And now I cannot forget to bring down that last digit. Even though that last digit is 0, it does make a difference, because now we go from having 4 to having 40. And 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40, so that's what we're going to subtract out. And 40 minus 40 is equal to 0. So we have nothing left over, which means that this changes to a whole number. It just changes to 45. So now I have my answer. So now I can go ahead and write it out in a sentence. So I'm going to say, the butcher used 45 pounds of meat in all. And that's really all you guys have to do for the homework pages. So your homework pages are slides 4 and 5, and you're just going to be doing exactly the same thing. This part of number 1 is showing up right now. Don't worry, that will not be showing up when you guys are doing the assignment, but you guys are going to be doing exactly the same thing. You do not have to show me your work. I just want the answer. Okay, so just make sure that when you're giving me the answer, you are converting it to a mixed number. And that is all for lesson 36. I will see you guys later. Bye.